Hey guys, it's Brant and I'm back with another Kiss album review. And today I'm going to be reviewing Kiss's Monster album. And I'm going to have a very special guest today with me. Rick from It's All For You Demon is going to be joining me today as a co-reviewer. And I'm always really excited when I get to work with Rick. We always have a really good time together. So that's what we're doing today. So let's get right into it. So hey everybody, I got Rick with me from It's All For You Demon, and
Hello, how are you?
yeah, just say hello there, Rick, to your fans that watch me and my fans, our viewers, I guess you'd call them. I don't know if they're fans, we call them viewers.
Thank you
Uh,
for having me.
yeah, it's awesome, and I always really look forward to getting to do something with you, and so we'll be seeing more of each other in the future. Also, we got some things we're cooking up in the pot for you guys. Me and Rick, we always plotting. So yeah, that's in the future. But today, like I said in the introduction, we're here to talk about Monster. So, do you have anything about Monster before we get into anything you want to talk about right off the cuff, or?
I just that I really I just remember buying this record so vividly, and I don't know why. I It came out in October, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just remember the night I bought it, and just the had a real cool Halloween vibe to it. That night did. It was kind of rainy, and I just remember really loving to dive into this record, and it felt good to have a new Kiss release again, and I think it for that reason alone, it's always kind of remained high on my playlist.
Yeah. I didn't buy this album right as it first came out. I bought Sonic Boom when I first bought it out. When it first came out, I bought it because I was working part time at Walmart at the time, just making extra money for Christmas. But Monster, I didn't buy right off when it first came out. It took me probably a couple years to get around to buying Monster, and we'll see how I feel about it once I listen to it. And I'll admit I haven't listened to Monster in a while, and I don't know if that's an indication of anything, but I haven't listened to Monster in a while, so I've been pulling it out and listening to it in the car and everything. And we'll talk about it. But I'll give a little bit of history here about it. Monster is their 20th and possibly final studio album. It's also the 72nd release from Kiss overall, including studio albums, live albums, compilation albums, box sets. After Universal bought the Kiss catalog, they went crazy releasing stuff. But especially between '93 and the mid 2000s, up to Sonic Boom, and there was even some releases in between, some box set releases in between Sonic Boom and Monster. But they were putting out box sets for like double platinum, the solo albums. They just put box set out for the solo albums again. They put box sets out for everything. There's a website. If you go on a website called Kiss FAQ, it's run by a guy called Jillian Gill. He's wrote a lot of books. He's talking about coming on my show and doing a video. We're talking about that, but he has all the catalog listings on there. And when I go through, I'll go to his and kind of reference and kind of count. Excuse me. And so it's the 72nd release. It was recorded from April 13th, 2011 to January 6th, 2012 at Conway Studios in Hollywood and at the Nook in Los Angeles. And it was produced by Paul Stanley and co-produced by Greg Collins. It's the same production team that worked on the band's previous release, Sonic Boom. Greg Collins also engineered and mixed the album, and mixing was complete near the end of March 2012, but the album wasn't released until 9 months later and had several delays. But I read that there was delays, but not really why there was delays. I got several statements here from the band. Simmons said that before recording began, they had about 20 to 25 songs to pick from. Then he said the band would record 10 songs. Then they changed the number to 15. And 14 songs were recorded, but the band only ended up using 12 on the regular albums, and there's two that got released. One got released on an iTunes release, and one got released on a Japanese world tour release. The iTunes version has a bonus track called Right Here, Right Now, which I listened to it, but I'm not going to be reviewing it. And the Japanese release included a live recording of King of the Nighttime World. I looked for demos for this album, couldn't really find any. The album spawned two singles, Hell or Hallelujah. It was released several months before the album came out on July 3rd, and the single reached number ones on iTunes and number 36 on the Billboard mainstream. Long Way Down was the second release, and it didn't chart. Tommy Thayer was quoted as saying the band was aiming to release a heavier album than Sonic Boom and was looking for a sound that was a combination of Destroyer, Revenge, and Sonic Boom. And I thought that was a very interesting quote. Gene Simmons was quoted as saying that the album's sound is meat and potatoes compared to having the consistency of Santa Claus always delivering. You know, Gene. The band also employed. I found this real interesting because I'm a studio nerd. I've been in recording studios, and you've been in a band too. The band employed the use of old analog equipment and tape for recording instead of the current industry standard digital. Simmons also stated they did this in order to force themselves to push hard. He said they used 24-track tape mixed on an old Trident board using as many tubes and thick wood as possible. The band used the same technique during the recording of Sonic Boom, but this time they used a company called Endless Technologies, CLASP, C-L-A-S-P technology, that stands for Closed Loop Analog Signal Processor. And what it did was it integrated the analog tape and the analog board directly into a digital audio program, which allowed them to record and mix in Pro Tools even though they were using analog recording and mixing equipment, which I thought was really cool. Paul was quoted as saying Monster is a culmination of everything the band has been in the past and where they were going. He said they took up where they left off musically after Sonic Boom and built on that. He also stated Monster was right up there with the best of everything they'd done in the past. Monster also...
Everyone says that.
Monster also debuted and peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and placed in top 10 in many of the international charts, including Canada, Germany, Italy, Finland, Japan, and cracked in the top 20 in other countries like UK and Spain. The album spent 7 weeks on the U.S. charts and sold 60,000 copies in its first week. Sold 120,000 copies in other countries in the first week. The album's never been certified RIAA, but SoundScan estimates U.S. total sales are around 157,000 as of October 2015. All songs were written by the band members with no help from outside writers. Paul wrote or co-wrote 10 of the 12 tracks. Gene co-wrote or wrote 6. Tommy co-wrote 8 tracks and wrote one by himself, and Eric co-wrote on one song. There is a rare one song being written by all 4 members of the band. That doesn't happen very often. There was only one outside musician, Brian Whelan, who played on the track Freak. So that's all the technical stuff. Like I said, I really don't have very many retrospective, reminiscent memories of this album. When I did buy it, I actually bought it digitally. I didn't buy it on iTunes. I actually used a streaming service at the time, probably Spotify or something like that. And this is my copy. This is the only copy that I have, and it's still sealed. It's never even been played on my record player. It's still sealed. It says 180 gram, off filler, no ballads, just full throttle rock and roll, featuring the radio hit Hell or Hallelujah, a full-on aerial assault from the Rolling Stones. Now, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. But and there's the back cover. Do you own this in vinyl form?
I only own it on CD.
Only on CD, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't had this one long. A friend of mine picked this up for me from a record store in Greensboro, North Carolina called Rhino Records.
I do love that cover, though. I will say that's probably one of my favorite kind of one of my favorite Kiss covers. I love the fact that, like, it almost seems like Gene and Paul are like goofing around in a way, and I love that it doesn't have that. Even though it's a staged picture, it doesn't really have that staged picture look to it. It was just a different look for an album cover, and I really dug that cover.
Yeah. A lot of people are real big fans of the Monster logo. They like the logo. What I like about it is I like this Kiss logo, but I like that the logo is behind the band. So, I mean, you only see a tip of the eye. And so the logo kind of sinks down behind the band like you see on magazine covers a lot. And like you said, yeah, they're very, very big. You know, their faces are good size on the album. It's a very close-up shot. And, you know, for it, you know, on the back side, you know, the pictures are very small. But, you know, they're very big on the front. And like I said, I don't know what this looks like on the inside. I've not opened it. But yeah, that's pretty cool packaging. I agree too. I mean, I do like that. I keep this one up on my wall quite a bit. I put the solo albums in the back for this time, and I've got over there I've got Unmasked, and over there I've got Dynasty. I go through different eras, and right now I'm in the late 70s, early 80s era. You know, and I'll put these up, and these are generally when I'm in here working. These are albums I'll just take down and I'll put on the record player and I'll play them. So. Like I said, you know, unless you got other memories or anything, do you remember what the reception? Because I don't really remember what the reception was of this album. Do you remember at the time that it came out? Since you got it when it came out, do you remember how it was received?
I think, if I'm correct, they released Hell or Hallelujah pretty early,
like in the summer.
That was to promote the Motley Crue tour, right? Because I thought they released this, and then Motley Crue released that song called Sex. And I remember loving the Kiss song, and I thought the Motley Crue song was horrible. And it seemed like the wait from that release to the release of the album was forever. And I was pretty nervous. Like, I thought either this is going to be a really good album or it's going to be horrible. But then, yeah, I don't really remember the reception because it seems like there was so much buzz about Sonic Boom that even though it sold well, it seems like Monster kind of fell flat.
And you have your Ford and Chevy people when it comes to Sonic Boom and Monster. It's almost very divided who likes what. You have your Monster people and you have your Sonic Boom people. And then you have people that don't like neither one of them. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just because of the stigma towards those two guys wearing the makeup. You know.
Oh, yeah.
But when I listen to this album, I'm not listening with my eyes. I'm listening with my ears. So I won't be grading my songs on the fact that, you know, they're wearing this makeup, you know. And I've always tried to be that way with Tommy and Eric when it comes to the music. I've always tried to listen with my ears and not with my eyes, and kind of put that stigma and put the scab label aside and just listen. I think the reason why this album fell off my radar is I remember when Hell or Hallelujah came out, and I remember the final Motley tour. I mean, I just remember. I remember that tour. I remember all that stuff that was going on, and I remember the video for this. It's like a word video.
Yep.
It's, you know, the words are all flying around on the screen and everything. And, you know, like I said, we'll get into it in a minute how I feel about Hell or Hallelujah. But like you said, the song came out, and I remember looking and seeing, is this album? Okay, the album's out. And then it was only the single. And then I think it kind of fell off my radar, and I think the reason why it fell off everybody's radar was I think they hurt themselves. Even though the album debuted very high, it was off the charts in a month and a half. You know, 7 weeks, it's gone. So it did this, and then it was like
I mean, that's just strict Kiss fans. I mean, that's just fans going out and buying it, and then it's done.
And then they're done. Because they released that second song as a single like a couple weeks after the album came out, and it fell flat. I think there's that's one thing I want to talk about I want to talk about their single selection as we go through this. And as we're going through this, I want you to tell me what songs you think should have been released as singles in order or whatever. Did you have that in your notes?
You're gonna hate my choice for the single, I think, but I'll keep it quiet until we hit that.
Okay. So we'll talk about that. But we're going to start with it's like 12 songs, 6 on each side. So we're going to start with track 1, Hell or Hallelujah. And so Hell or Hallelujah was written by Paul, sang by Paul. It's the first track and the first single. And Paul described it as an up-tempo battle cry with a great riff definitive of a Kiss that encapsulates the whole album. Now, I think Hell or Hallelujah, I like it. I think it's a great song. And when you hear this song, when you put this album on, and it starts off with that opening riff, and they kick in, and Paul kicks in, he said, when that ship of fools, it starts off great. And I'm sitting here going, okay, this is going to be a good album, So I think that Hell or Hallelujah was a good choice as a lead-off single. It's a good choice for a first track of the album because I'm personally a fan of it. I've got that it's upbeat, nice riffs. You hear how tight they are. There's a couple little syncopation things in there. And you hear how, if I can say anything about Tommy and Eric, I can say that they take their job seriously. Because these guys, they're professionals. They're professionals in the studio and they're professionals on the stage. You can just see it in the footage of the End of the Road. The more and more footage I see, lip syncing or debate or not aside, the more footage I see, you see that these guys are, in their 60s and up, and at least Sheen and Paul is, and they're having fun. You've mentioned it in one of your videos that they themselves are having fun. Yeah, they're making hand over fist mad cash, and this could be seen as a cash grab with all the, they're not going to put out an album to support it, at least, or they didn't put out an album to support it. There'll probably be some kind of follow-up album, maybe. It all depends on how many. Universal is going to make money off Kiss because they're going to keep doing these limited editions well into whenever. But it's they're having fun, and this song is fun. Like I said, I know you're a big fan of fun, and this song is fun, and it's one of those. It's a summer. Even though this came out in the fall, this album should have been released earlier. Fall albums are I used to love the albums that came out just as school was out and summer hit because you listened to those damn albums all summer long. They played in your cars, you took the T-tops out or rolled the windows down, went on those long drives to the beach or whatever, and you jammed these albums out, these summer albums. You jammed them out. This should have been a summer album. It has the feel of a summer album, not a fall album. And especially with the song like Hell or Hallelujah coming out of the gate, kind of kicking you in the teeth a little bit. It was perfect for the album, for the single to come out during the summer, but the album should have came out too.
Yeah.
But I'll give this song a 7. Out of the gate for me, I give it a 7. So what do you think about it?
I think it's a great opener. It has a take me feel to it in a way. I love the kind of raw power of it. I also love the fact that this is one of the reasons why I like Paul Stanley as a songwriter. I've written songs before, and in no way am I as talented as Paul Stanley, but I know like what it takes to write a song, and I would never consider Hell or Hallelujah a title. Like that just, like if I wrote that out on a piece of paper, to me it doesn't make sense. But that's what I like about Paul writing songs. He kind of writes with a no rules attitude, and it just works perfectly with this song. And this song is such a great opener. I remember hearing it in July or whenever they announced that tour. The album should have came out right then. It just lost so much momentum from the release of this as a single to the album coming out. I think if you would have done also a better video than a lyric video,
Yeah.
they should have done an actual like real kiss and makeup video.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I really like this song. It's a great opener. It's got great energy, and it's a great way to open a Kiss record. I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go on to track 2, and that is a track called "The Wall of Sound."
Can't stop the roll of the thunder. Yeah.
"The Wall of Sound" was written by Paul, Gene, and Tommy. Paul, Gene, and Tommy are really the main centerpiece songwriters of this album. Paul don't write too many songs by himself. Gene don't write too many songs by himself. But Paul and Tommy are involved in a lot of them, almost all of them. The band wrote the guts of this song in the studio in about 40 minutes, which is pretty damn impressive. Depending on, I mean, even if it's not a good song, it's pretty impressive that the guts of this song was written in about 40 minutes. The working title of the song was called "Walls of Sound," and it was based off Gene's description of the riff, and it stuck and become the name of the song. It was started by Paul and fine-tuned by Gene. And I've got my notes about this that it's very Led Zeppelin-ish type riffs, that da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, you know. But Gene sounds great. I love how whenever Gene starts singing in the verse, they just kind of, at the very beginning, they just stop, the drum stop, and that guitar is just like, da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, da-da-da-da. And Gene sounds, Paul had started sounding a little strained, like especially in Hallelujah when he is on Ship of Fools, you know, you started to hear his voice kind of thin out a little bit from, you know, and that's not a shot at him. That's just, you know, hey, you know, we all get older.
Yeah.
But Gene just really still sounded good. Gene had some really good, not necessarily, he had some kind of demonish songs on here, the demon character, at least emulating it. We'll get to those. But I liked how, you know, Gene being, you know, from Israel and everything, how he made a lot of like walls of Jericho, kind of biblical streets running with blood, and you know. But I like this song. I like it just as much as I think this song should have been a single. I think this should have been the follow-up to Hell or Hallelujah, because it was a 1-2 punch. You had a Paul song, and then you had a Gene song. And I think it had been a 1-2 punch. So I like this just as much as Hell or Hallelujah. So I scored a 7.
Yeah, I agree that this should have been a second single, because I think it would have been the perfect combo, having a Paul single and then a Gene single. Kind of gives you the best of both worlds. I love the riff. This is the first song I heard when I knew the album was coming out. It was on iTunes. It was on pre-order, but you could listen to a blurb of each track. And I remember hearing that riff and just getting goosebumps. Like, I was like, wow, this is, I thought Zeppelin too. And then actually hearing the song once the album came out, those verses have that helter-skelter feel to it. And I just love it. To me, it is a demon type song, and it's just the perfect Gene song.
Right.
I give it a 7 out of 10.
All right, awesome. So we're kind of riding in the same boat here, man. Riding along. I'm sure that we're going to take a detour at some point in time, but keep it entertaining. Keep the viewers watching to see when one of us goes this way and the other one goes this way. So track 3 is from Paul, and it's called "Freak."
I've got freaks in my hair. People point at me and stare. If they ask me, I say yeah, I'm a freak.
And "Freak" was written by Paul and Tommy, and "Freak" was written primarily by Paul he was thinking about giving this song to Lady Gaga, because they found out that Lady Gaga was a big Kiss fan, to the point where during this time she would even have parties at her house where everybody dressed up like Kiss. She'd have Kiss parties. And you know, Lady Gaga at some point in time, love her or hate her, she had a point in her career where she was just Madonna-esque. She was doing things just to be different, just to be controversial, just to piss off the establishment. Very much kind of what Kiss was doing in the early 70s. And so I could see where Paul, especially, and Gene would kind of embrace a figure like Lady Gaga. And it's called Freak, and she had these songs, Born This Way, and all these other songs. My wife's a huge Lady Gaga fan. Not so much. But they were actually going to give this song to Lady Gaga. And then after hearing it, Gene suggested that they decided they were going to keep it. And so Lady Gaga and Paul were going to sing it together. Lady Gaga was going to be a special guest. And I'm sure they wanted maybe somebody. Paul's thinking, like you said, you mentioned Paul, his writing ability. But Paul's also very astute in a lot of ways. And they were probably thinking, we're kind of aging a little bit. What if we get somebody, a special guest on our album that's kind of relevant to the kids, and, maybe we'll pick up a single that'll hit, go into the top 10 or top 5 on the pop charts because Lady Gaga's singing it. But Gene suggested that Paul sing the song by himself. This song, it kind of loses me a little. There's parts I like about it. It's got some good hooks, and there's things I like about it. I like some of the riff, and this happens a lot on this album where it's like they can't quite put the song together as a whole unit for me to enjoy all the way through. It's like taking a bite out of a sandwich where, I didn't get all the meat or all the what I put in the sandwich on it. It's like I take it, it's like, oh man, there was no meat in that at all. That was all cheese and mayonnaise, And so as you're going through the song, you get that, you're like, oh God, I really like this. Oh God, this sucks, and I don't like this part at all, That happens a lot with me on this album, but they did lose me. It's hard to follow up Hell or Hallelujah and Wall of Sound. So they were going to have to drop down at some point in time. So for me, they do it on this song. So I score this song a 5. I don't hate it, but it's nothing to me. It's nothing like the first two.
Yeah, I would totally agree. This album has such like peaks and then it just peaks and lows, peaks and valleys. And I had no idea of that Lady Gaga stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank
you for sharing that. That was an interesting tidbit. And now it makes me, I think I'm going to look at this song completely different now. But I also feel like this song is almost like a Live to Win, Paul Stanley solo album type song. It doesn't feel very Kiss to me. I do like the streaks in the hairline because that reminds me of remember around Rock and Roll Over when Paul had that blonde streak in his hair.
Had that blonde streak in the side of his hair. Yep.
I like that, and like you said, it's got great hooks to it. That pre-chorus, that out in the streets, bam bam, taking on the heat. Damn. I love those. I love those hooks. But to me, it's more of a Paul Stanley song than a Kiss song. I also gave it 5.
Okay, awesome. It's scary.
I know.
Okay, so the next track, track number 4 on the first side, we're going to be listening to Back to the Stone Age.
Listen, there was light. At the dawn of creation, there was fear in the dead of night.
Now, Back to the Stone Age was written by Paul, Gene, Tommy, and Eric. This was Eric contributed. This is another studio song written that has a rare Eric Singer writing credit. Paul, Gene, and Tommy came up with the bulk of the song, and Eric inspired Gene to change his perspective on the lyrics to make it heavier and more Neanderthal sounding and slow down the tempo of the lyrics. And man, I tell you what, you come out of Freak and it's like you get that very nasty, just that at the very beginning. And at that point in time, it kind of builds up and then it builds into the intro of the song. And I'm like, yeah, I'm back into this album. I'm back into this album. I love the nasty riff at the beginning, the tempo. I like how, how it kind of stops whenever he goes to sing. Talking about, and forgive me, because you may have to correct me on something, because one of the things that this album has a bad effect of doing to me is sometimes there's a couple songs on here that sound so much alike or are very alike in their nature that I get the lyrics from one confused with the other. But is this the one where he says, in the beginning there was darkness and there was light as the first lyric?
I believe so.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This isn't Love Gun, and it's not, you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
If I went, I really love you, baby, you know what that song is, even though it's a very simple line. But I think because it's talking about going back to the Stone Age. So, but I like this song. I'm not a fan of the chorus. I'm not a fan of that 4 on the floor, on the snares, back to the Stone Age. But I'm not a fan of the chorus as I am the verses. But it's better than Freak. But it's not as good as Hell or Hallelujah or While It Sounds, so I had to give it a 6. I had to put it in between the two. So that's where I stuck it.
I actually went down from Freak for this song. I like everything up until the chorus. The chorus does not work for me, and it just loses me. It becomes, it's not a fist in the air type song, and it's almost like the first, even Freak a little bit. The first 3 tracks are kind of fist in the air, rock and roll,
right.
And then you kind of just got this cheesy chorus, and
they're trying to get you to put your fist in the air, but it just
And I skip this track more than I play it, so I gave it a 4.
Okay, all right. So we little up and down on that one. That's okay. So we'll go to the next track, which is track 5 on the first side, and that's Shout Mercy.
I wanna get a little crazy. Hey, you got everything I'm after.
Shout Mercy was written by Paul and Tommy, and they collaborated on this track. Paul stated he felt it was strong enough to be the opening track on the album because of the raw energy. This song, for me, just falls kind of flat. I'm not a big fan of the verses. They don't stand out with me. But I like the chorus. But the thing that kills me about this song is the woo-woos.
Well,
oh, my God. Now, I like when Eugene comes in and is like, oh, yeah. I can get behind that. Like I said, it's like, woo, woo, oh, shit. Oh, yeah, all right. And it's like, they got me, they're doing this to me through these songs. And it's just not a consistent, yeah. It's like, oh, I like that, oh. It's like, even the songs themselves are peaks and valleys inside the songs themselves. But so this one really, to me, to this point, is my worst song on the album. I scored this one a 4. And the woo-woos have a big contributing factor to that.
Yeah, that train woo is bad. I always felt that this song was kind of like Say Ya's cousin from Sonic Boom. I could imagine this being played live, or maybe even used in like a montage video of live shots. I think it's a good Paul Stanley song, but it's not a great Paul Stanley song. I gave it a 5.
Okay. All right, cool. So we're close on that. Last track on the first side, track 6, is called Long Way Down. The Long Way Down was written by Paul and Tommy. And like I said, they teamed up a lot. The second single was released from the album in October, shortly after the album's release. It didn't chart and was the final single. And I think that's a mistake. I think that they should have there's at least 3 good singles on this album. And there's a potential 4th one. That's not one of them. So far I've said Hell or Hallelujah and The Wall of Sound. I've got 2 more coming. But there could be 3 and 4. But Tommy found himself, he recalled he found himself working with Paul and Gene for songs on the albums, but had a tendency to work more with Paul. And Paul says the song is about him appreciating the height of success that the band had reached, and that's what the song was basically about, and that it was a long way to the top, and it was a long way down too. But this has more of that Led Zepp swagger type feel to it. You catch a lot of that in this, especially in the first part of the album. The vibe for me kind of changes towards the end of the album, but you catch a lot of that Zeppelin, those huge guitars and the Zeppelin swag. I like it. I mean, it's not too bad, but it don't grab me the way I like to be grabbed. Like I said, it's not strong enough all the way through to grab me and keep a hold of me. It grabs and slips and grabs and slips, and I find myself being patient through the parts of the song I don't like to get to the parts of the song I do like. So I score this one a 5 for me.
I think this is where we're gonna split. I love this song. Paul Stanley songs. My favorite Paul Stanley song is Mr. Speed. My second Paul Stanley song is Love Gun, and Long Way Down is my third favorite Paul Stanley song.
Okay.
When I got this record, I remember coming home and I was playing it in our living room, and I was putting away laundry. So I was like walking from the laundry room to the bedroom back and forth. And I was in the bedroom when this song started. And I remember just being like, what in the world is this? And I walked out to the living room and I just stood there and I played the song like 3 times in a row. And I just fell in love with it. To me, it is classic Paul Stanley. It's ballsy. It's arrogant. It's very cocky. And to me, that's what Paul Stanley is. He's, my rules, my way kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. And I love it. It's my favorite track from this record. I gave it a 10.
Okay, awesome. Yes, so we did go the opposite way. Like I said, I did say it's not too bad. It just doesn't grab me like some of the other songs on here grab me. So, all right, so that finishes up the first side of the album. So we're going to flip the vinyl, and we're going to go to the first track on the second side, and it's called Eat Your Heart Out.
Your heart out, baby. Won't you give me something sweet? Yeah,
Eat Your Heart Out is a Gene song. He wrote it by himself. Gene said this song was originally titled Are You Ready? Gene suggested that the song started as an older song that had originated in the 70s, but had been torn apart and reworked many times over the years and finally ended up on Monster. It's one of the few, if not only, Kiss songs that features an a cappella intro. And first off, I do not like the a cappella intro. I'm not a fan of that at all. I'm not a fan of the little fake warm up. I'm not. They should have excised that off and just started with that awesome guitar riff. Because the guitar riff that starts this is awesome. But I wish it started with the guitar, especially being the second tracks. I really like Gene's. It's funny because I see you sometimes maybe grab, and I don't know if this will be this way throughout the whole album, but it's like you're kind of gravitating towards the Paul camp on this album, and I kind of gravitate towards the Gene camp on this album, or at least I have to this point. I got on here under my notes that up to this point I really liked most of Gene's songs on this album, so I scored this song a 6.
I do not like the fake intro.
Yeah, the acapella thing.
It reminds me. Remember the song "Let It Play" by Poison from the Flesh and Blood album? Mm-hmm. It reminds me of the intro to that, and that worked for that Poison song. It does not work for this song. and I even have in my notes, thank God for the riff, because the riff is good.
Mm-hmm.
That intro just ruins it for me.
Mm-hmm.
To me it just turns silly. This song does, and I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
It's just not one of my better tracks.
Okay. All right. That leads us to track 2 on the second side, and that song is called "The Devil Is Me."
Salvation, yeah.
And it's written by Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Tommy Thayer. According to Gene, he sees this song as an authentic confessional song about him, about himself, and the character that he developed over time in previous decades in Kiss. He's also referenced that his point of view of this is also can be towards other people. When you point a finger at someone who you feel is doing wrong, you have four fingers pointing back at you. Whenever he's in here, I will say I'm not a fan of the chorus, because I love Gene Simmons' Family Jewels. I've seen every episode, and I love, whether it's staged or not, whether it's good TV, and I'm a big fan of Gene and his personality, his bit larger than life, over the top personality, and I love the fact that Gene walks around in the public eye acting like he's the man, but he's got a wife and 2 kids that make fun of him at home, and they made a television show about it, and when he says the devil is me, it always reminds me of the opening line of whenever he does that thing, and he always does that before he closes his book, and he goes, and that's why it's good to be me, and but I love the riff. The riff in this song, I think, is badass. I like the verse. Gene's voice on this, the way he sings on this album, in its overall scope of this album, Gene just sounds, when he sings, I'm just like, God, you still sound so good. And even Gene today sounds good, but you can even hear some that Gene is kind of getting old. But I like this song, but I think that's a good song, so I scored a 6.
I agree with the chorus. Exactly what you said. To me, the chorus loses momentum, but to me, this is such a 1982 Demon song. It's got the anger, it's got the riff. Mm-hmm. It's Gene back to his original, Demon persona, and I love it. I love, even the fact that the word devil's in the title is awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think an album called Monster needs tracks like this. I gave it an 8.
Okay, awesome. The next track number 3 on the second side, is from Tommy, and it's called "Out of This World."
I'll take you out of this world, to the other side, on a midnight rocket.
Tommy wrote "Out of This World" by himself, and it's a space-themed song, and he says what he was trying to convey is, even though it's space themed, the song is about going out and finding a girl and having fun and trying to live life to its fullest. He says that he realized that he wasn't doing anything groundbreaking with the song, but Paul, quote unquote, was happy enough to include it. I actually really like this song, and I know a lot of the Tommy haters, they hate this song. They hated this song. They hated, what was the song on Sonic Boom? God, what was this?
Lightning Strikes?
When Lightning Strikes. I liked When Lightning Strikes. I actually like When Lightning Strikes a little better than this song. And they very much sound very much alike. They almost could be bookends. I like this song in some point as much as others on the album. But it kind of has that, kind of sounds like Hair of the Dog in some places. And it also sounds like that song, I can't remember who sings it, but that riff, that it sounds like that song Save my life, I'm going down for the last time. It sounds like that. And so that's basically the riff he's singing over. I like this song, so I scored a 6.
I totally agree with everything you said. To me, I appreciate the fact that you said that Tommy wrote this about, wanting to get a girl, because to me, the fact that it is such an Ace themed song, I wish they would have just let Tommy do a Tommy Thayer Black and Blue type rock and roll song.
Mm-hmm.
I get that he's the spaceman, but he doesn't have to write a space song. Just give him a rock and roll song. I mean, he wrote When the Street Giveth and the Street Taketh Away with Gene. Let him write a rock song that has nothing to do with the spaceman. I would have liked it far more there. And I also, it's going to segue into the next track we talk about too. Tommy and Eric get so much grief for wearing that makeup. Don't shove it in our face with these songs.
Uh-huh.
These guys are great musicians. They can write great rock songs that aren't character driven.
Uh-huh.
I gave it a 5 because I do like the song, but if I could ask for anything to be redone, it would be like, just take away the theme of this song and just give us rock and roll lyrics.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm glad we see eye to eye on that. I'd still love you if we didn't, but okay, so yeah, you're just talking about the next song. So the next song's track 4 on the second side, called All for the Love of Rock and Roll.
'Cause it's all for the love of rock and roll. Hear my music in the air and I'm losing control.
Now this is a song that was written by Paul. He wrote this song for Eric to sing. Eric says Paul nailed this song as far as attitude and his approach to music, talking about Eric's approach to music, stating that he sees playing drums the same as any job, like a fireman or a teacher, and he tries to do his job to the best of his ability. Eric felt that the fans embraced this song as more of an Alive era type song and was better suited for Eric than Sonic Boom's All for the Glory due to the vocal styling. Paul added he spent a lot of time with Eric in the studio until he was comfortable enough to make it his own. And this is one of those songs, I can't do this song. I can't. From the very beginning, it's like, okay, I immediately get pissed off when I hear this song, and it sounds like Mr. Speed starting. And then Eric comes in with his, yeah, yeah. I love Eric as a drummer. I've never really liked him as a singer. I didn't like All for the Glory off Sonic Boom. I hated All for the Glory. It gets that da-na-na-na-na skip. I mean, it gets skipped so fast you'd be, wow, God, you moved at the speed of light to hit skip on that song. I can't do this song. It sounds like it belongs on Rock and Roll Over. It seriously sounds like they're ripping off Mr. Speed, and Paul is trying to do what he did for Peter. He's trying to write a Peter Hard Luck Woman, Mr. Speed type. I don't know. I can hear, when I hear this song, I can hear Peter singing it. If you take what because it's got that da na 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 na, that was getting me by, and it's like you could hear Peter's raspy vocals singing that. It's like, God, this bit. Why didn't you write this for Psycho Circus? I'd rather had this Peter singing this song. To me, would make more sense, and it being on Psycho Circus rather than I Found My Way to You.
Oh, that song's horrible.
I mean, so I could, like I said, and it's not that it's a bad song. It's just I can't do it with Eric singing it, because I know what Paul's trying to do with this song is he's trying to make a Catman drummer song for Eric, and I just can't. But I did give it not as bad a score as you think, because even though I actually was honest with myself, and I looked at some of my other scores and stuff that I scored 2s and 1s in previous albums. This song to me is hands down better than All for the Glory. This song usually gets skipped by me. It's usually the skipped song on here, but I still scored it a 3. But it is the worst scored song on the album for me. This is my least favorite song on the album, so I'll give it a 3.
I loved All for the Glory. That was one of my favorite songs from that record.
I know, I know. And it pains me to tell you I can't stand it.
And I love it. I really love Eric Singer's voice. This song is totally a Mr. Speed ripoff. And it is totally a song written for, not Eric Singer, but it's written for the Catman drummer of Kiss. And I wish they wouldn't have done that. I wish they would have just let Eric have a rock and roll song. I do love the lyric that says, that's when you see there's a ring on her finger. That's when she tells you that she's single tonight. I love that line.
Yeah.
The 8th grader in me starts giggling. But I gave it a 7 out of 10. I like All for the Glory better, but I just kind of dig this song, and maybe it's because I love Mr. Speed so much that whenever I hear it, I kind of just dig it. But totally in agreement with you that this was written for not Eric Singer. This was written for the Catman drummer of Kiss, and it shouldn't have been. It should have just been give Eric and Tommy rock and roll songs. Just give them plain rock and roll songs. You've said several times that you tried to listen with your ears and not your eyes. Monster is one of those records that makes me wish Kiss didn't have the makeup on anymore. I just want Eric, Tommy, Gene, and Paul non-makeup and a record. And if they would have done that, I think the Tommy and Eric songs would be different. But I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. I agree with you on that. Sonic Boom and Monster both could have very well been without makeup. It could have been Kiss without makeup. So we're going to go to the 5th track. Next to the last song on the album, Take Me Down.
She said, take me down below. Doesn't matter where we go.
Take Me Down was another track that was written by Stanley, by Paul and Gene and Tommy. Paul and Gene traded vocals on this one and was looking for a song with innuendo in it, and wanted to try to add a little bit of humor to the album. I've got on my notes that this is just a great riff. I love when Paul and Gene trade vocals. I always have. I love when they sing harmony together, and you can really definitively hear them both together. They do it very well. They're very comfortable with each other. They've been together a long time at this point in time. And I've always loved when you hear Paul and Gene trade vocals back and forth in a song, or when Gene sings something and Paul will come in and sing, even if it's just a little part, which is sometimes. And I do like this song. I think it's a fun song, but it's not as good as some of the previous songs on the album to me, so I score this song a 6.
I love the music of this song. To me, the lyrics are just so cheeseball. I mean, I did a post on my Instagram account a long time ago about if I had one wish that of a Kiss song to be re-recorded, it would be this song, and just give us new lyrics. I love the end of this. Well, I also love when Gene and Paul trade vocals. Nothing is better than that. They should do that in every song. It would get old, but there's nothing better than that. And I love the end of this song when Eric comes in and they're all kind of just trading off those little, vocal parts here and there. So much fun. I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Okay. All right. And so the last song on the album is called, it's track 6, it's called Last Chance.
When to begin? Yeah, you do. This is your last chance to get it right.
Last Chance was written by Paul, Gene, and Tommy. And I don't know. It's the last song on the album, minus the bonus tracks, and it concludes the album. And it's the band tried to make this song have the same energy as the rest of the album. They didn't want they really wanted to try to make, when they set out, their heart was in the right place to make an album that is like what they said on here on their promo label on the hype sticker. No filler, no ballads, just full throttle rock and roll. There's not any ballads on here, and I don't think, to me, I mean, me and you have not really came out. I've said, the worst song that I scored on here was All for the Love of Rock and Roll. I scored it a 3. You scored it very well. We've not really found a song here that sucks that we fully agree on. So, and I have a tendency to find that songs that are filler, that are true filler, you get a general consensus of people together in a room that are into that album. The filler track, the well-known filler track, is the one like, oh, I can't stand that song, and you're still going to have some guy, you're going to have that guy that like, oh, I like every song on this album. There are no fillers. It's good all the way through. But I don't really think, I think that they did what they set out to do, and Kiss has a really bad history, in my opinion, of petering out at the end of an album, where it just kind of goes and goes and goes. And by the time you get to the last track, you're like, okay, I just hit eject or take it off. I'm done. I don't even want to hear the last song. I know how it ends. But I think they wanted to end this album with the same energy. And I think that they did. The start of it sounds like Plaster Caster for a split second. That bass line, when it comes in, it almost sounds like Plaster Caster. It really seems on this song that they're really pulling inspiration from Love Gun and from Rock and Roll Over. I think this song almost sounds like it could have been, musically wise, it could have been on either one of those albums, Love Gun or Rock and Roll. They're bookends. They sound, so very much alike. But I'm not really, a fan of the song. But I do feel like that, even though it's not the worst song on the album, that it does kind of peter the album out a little bit for me. They could have done a different song at the very end of the album. They could have ended it with "The Devil Is Me," or they could have ended it with "Take Me Down." I don't know. They could have ended it with something else. And I don't like the fact that it's the last song on the album and they call it Last Chance. It's almost like, I love the song Goodbye on Paul's solo album, 1978 solo album. I hate the fact that it's the last track on the album. It's the last track on the album, he's saying goodbye. It's cheesy in a way. And I know that he might not have intended it to be that way, but when you come into the end of something, to have a song that kind of indicates a last of something or the end of something, it's kind of, it takes a little while. We used to say it takes little cool points off, little cool points. But I scored a 5 because there are some good things I like about it.
I scored it a 4 because I kind of always forget about it. It's just the track that it's never in my head the next day. It's never in my head an hour later. As far as it being the last track on the album, Sonic Boom had Say Anything as the last track. And I know people can either hate that song or love it, but at least that song had some power. This song, although it's good and powerful, it just doesn't have that punch for me. So I gave it a 4 out of 10. Yeah. I just rarely remember that this track is on the record. And for that, I just gave it a 4.
Yeah. I'm going to give my final score, but before I give my final score and give my final thoughts and everything, I want to know what your final thoughts about this album is, and any other thing you want to say, about Kiss during this time, or any of your thoughts or whatever.
I remember going to see, and everyone bashes, or a lot of people bash the current lineup, but I remember going to see the Freedom to Rock tour, and this was one of the records I grabbed the next day. every time you see Kiss live, you always the next day that's all you want to listen to is Kiss. And seeing that current lineup really got me, into that lineup. And I think I like Monster a little better than Sonic Boom, and I think Monster is a good representation of that current, the band's current lineup. I do wish it was non-makeup. I know that's seen or listening with my eyes, but like I said, there's the Tommy song and the Eric song are just too cliche, character driven. I just wish they would have been more straight ahead rock songs, but I do like this album. If I was to rate, my friend Danny and I were talking about this today, like Psycho Circus, Sonic Boom, and Monster, I think I would say Psycho Circus, my favorite, Monster, and then Sonic Boom. So as a whole, I do really enjoy this record.
Okay. My final thoughts on it is I ended up scoring it, if you add all my stuff together, is a 66 divided by 12. It's a 5.5. So it didn't score the greatest for me. It definitely scored her down towards the low part of the middle of the scale for me. And it scored a little below Sonic Boom for me, but not by much. So if I was to rate those three albums like you did, I'd probably say Psycho Circus, because I like Psycho Circus a whole lot. And probably Sonic Boom, and then Monster. But like I said, I've got albums, a lot of albums I've rated on the lower side of 5 for Kiss and everything, so it holds up. And I don't hate it. I don't hate the album. It's not one that I listen to very often, but when I do listen to it, I'll get it, and I'll listen to it, and listen to it, and listen to it, and I'll get it kind of binge on it a little bit, and then I'll put it away for a little bit. So I'm going to talk to the viewers for a second. What do you guys think? Put down in the comments what you guys think about this album. What was going on in your life when you got it? How old were you? What was going on? Share some experiences. Favorite song, worst song. Rank your three, what you like between the best to the worst between Sonic Boom and Psycho Circus and Monster. Let's hear it. Also, this guy right here, check him out. Rick, it's all for you, Demon. I'm going to put the link to his page, his channel, down in the description. Check him out. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Watch a few of his videos. He has really good stuff. And Rick, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening. We always have a good time.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. This is so much fun. I love your album reviews. You go so deep into records. I remember the first video I ever saw of yours, and I was like, wow, this guy dives in and dissects records, and I love it. And it's just, like I told you with your box set reviews, you make me go back and re-listen to stuff I haven't listened to in a long time. Mm-hmm. Your Symphony review the other day, I haven't listened to that album in probably since it came out, and after watching that and your review, I go back and I watch stuff, and so I love your album reviews, and so, man, thank you for having me. It's a blast.
So we're going to go and get out of here. We're going to wrap this up, and Rick, like I said, man, I appreciate you being here, taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
And guys, let us know what you think. Give Rick a try him out, check him out, give him a like, give him a subscribe. And I'm Brent. This is
It's All For You, Demon.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I don't try to give Kiss too much of a hard time when they make an album that is maybe subpar, because they've been doing this for so long and they have so many albums in their catalog that even between these 4 solo albums back here, you get a different flavor off of every 4 of these.